Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
This just in. Daniel Snyder, owner of the National Football League Redskins, has announced that the team is dropping the word Washington from the team name, and it will henceforth be simply called the Redskins. It was reported that he finds the word Washington imparts a negative image of poor leadership, mismanagement, corruption, cheating, and lying, and is not a fitting role model for young fans of football. Here's Kate Smith, and God bless America. Good morning. Good morning on a Monday. Oh, good morning. Welcome to Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, and along with some of our great advertisers, including Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call, get on the route service today, 734-6969. And Valley-Wide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Everything for the farm, the home, and the ranch at Valley-Wide Home and Ranch. Let's see if we have a Pledge of Allegiance person. Good morning.
Good morning, and that was one of the greatest starts to your program I've ever heard. Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes, sir, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to say how much I appreciate your calling in with the pledge, sir. God bless you and have a wonderful week, okay?
You too.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Oh, man, to say that I am recharged, refurbished, ready to go. That's not true. We've got to get some energy here this morning. Hey, Ted's Diesel Electric is moving to 635 21st Street in Hayburn. Yeah, buddy. They've been boxing things up, and they're ready to go over there where they can better serve you with rebuilt starters, alternators, and generators. And even selling you brand new Ted's Diesel Electric, moving to 635 21st Street in Hayburn. We better get the weather in here right now, and it's brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design. What wonderful people. Kyle and Whitney, I really salute you for the job you're doing. A lot of people are talking about your business at 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. And don't forget all the newly refurbished furniture, all the home decor items, along with kitchen construction, carpet and flooring, everything you need to make your house a home. I'll tell you, they can help. Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Here now, the weather.
Here's your weather forecast as we kick off the final work week in the month of August. And it looks like we're going to be in a high-pressure stretch. But that's not going to help with the air quality advisory that is still in effect. Mostly sunny skies for today, slightly breezy. Winds out of the west right around 7 miles an hour. Expect a high of 92 for today. Tonight, low of 60. Tomorrow, mostly sunny skies, still slightly breezy. High of 90 with an overnight low of 61. Wednesday, dropping down to about 88. Still mostly sunny skies. And then as we head on into the weekend, mostly sunny skies. Winds are going to be picking up just a little bit, and highs are going to be in the mid-80s. That's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Range.
Gina, thank you very much. Well done. And brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. Hey, by the way, I want to give some thank yous and kudos to Valleywide and what they've done. They help fund the Hayburn Fire District. As a matter of fact, I got a note that said Valleywide Cooperative, Valley Agronomics, with matching funds from Land O'Lakes, donated a total of $4,600 to the Minidoka County Fire Protection District. The donation will be used to provide equipment to the local department that will allow them to improve service to their local communities. So congratulations to Valleywide and all their stores. Thank you for being so community-oriented, and thank you for all your help. Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. You know, I've had them on the program, I think almost since the very get-go, and Kevin and Cindy and everybody over at Daryl's, I really appreciate you. I appreciate what you do. I appreciate how you do it. When people take in their rumply crumplies and their dirty old clothes and tablecloths and everything, and then they go pick them up and they go, oh, wow, looks brand spanking new. Yep, you'll have the same response. You stop in and see them today. Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. I want to also acknowledge and thank our friends at SafeLink Internet. Oh, man, I'll tell you what, I don't know what we'd do without them and this program. We get a lot of information early in the morning off the Internet. Thank you very much with our friends back east in both the news centrals of Washington, D.C. and New York. Well, SafeLink Internet, 677-8000. Don't forget, no contracts, no credit checks, and unlimited data and free installation. And the first month's free. You better check it out today at SafeLink Internet, 677-8000, Idaho's number one choice. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. What is this? I can't believe this note I got, and then I did some follow-up. Mexico is telling us, the United States of America, this is from the hierarchy of Mexico, and they're sending out words of be careful, that we'd better have passports and all the credentials to get into their country, Mexico. You talk about hypocrisy. They want to know who is in their country. Now, come on, this is almost like telling a joke. You know there's a punchline there someplace. But Mexico is telling us that we had better have passports and all the papers and all the credentials if we want to get into their country. With all the hypocrisy of what's going on with our porous borders, we're not having our citizens flood down to Mexico. They're coming up here. And for crying out loud to have the Mexican government dictate to us, that is almost to the point of being jabbed in the chest one too many times. Can you imagine them telling us, you better have your credentials and your passports or we're going to get you and send you back to either the United States or we're going to take you to jail. Oh, my goodness sakes, please. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to talk about 3 very brave American soldiers on vacation in just a few moments. Stand by for that. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Number to call, 678-0459. And they open the doors at 7:30 in the morning, and they stay open until 5 o'clock at night, Monday through Friday. And again, they've got all your filters for your air conditioning needs and to make sure you stay cool and your AC operates efficiently and properly. They also have all your heating and electric needs because they provide warm winters and cool summers. And don't forget, September 10th, Patriots Day, we are going to be over there with a live remote broadcast like we have for so many days. Don't miss that. Don't miss that. It is going to be great at Ramsey Heating and electric. While I also have a chance here before I take some of your calls, I want to remind you about Valley-Wide Home and Ranch. Oh my, they are busy this time of the year. Okay. The Cache County Fair is over, and the Minidoka County Fair is over, and now the Twin Falls County Fair is coming up. But you might want to take just a couple of days to just say we got to regroup, and you might want to go fishing. Well, they've got all your fishing supplies, and I mean that, all your fishing supplies. They've got all your licensing and your rods and reels, everything. So maybe cool it. Stick your feet up in the air on maybe the end of a bark old tree or whatever, and just let the fishing pole with the line out in the water, and if it dips and you catch something, fine. If not, just lay there and enjoy. But anyway, they've got it all over there at Valley-Wide Home and Ranch, along with all the bug spray and the wasp spray and everything else at Valley-Wide Home and Ranch. Local people are serving you at 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Valley-Wide Home and Ranch. I would like to have some calls to start the week off of. Right now, off on the right foot. Give me a jingle, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. 3 American soldiers were on vacation leave, and they saved the day for a train full of occupants in France. It appears that a Muslim murderer that had nothing but murder on his mind, mass murder, boarded the train, and he had an AK-47 along with pistols and numerous ammunition clips. And I guess, according to the reports, and some of the information a little sketchy, but I guess that these 3 soldiers saw this man enter the train car that they were in with the AK-47, and they knew that this was not good, and they had to take him out. And other people were injured before this murderer, this mass murderer, could wreak mayhem on many, many people. And, you know, the amount of ammunition that this guy had and the weapons that he had, he could have literally gone from car to car on this train and just absolutely wreaked total havoc and mayhem. Well, these 3 American soldiers sprung into action and literally took this man down, beat him severely, which, quite frankly, in this case, I wouldn't have minded at all to report to you that the Muslim Moroccan attempted murderer had been beaten to death. He deserved it. But do you know what the guy's defense lawyer is saying? I just absolutely sat there and I gazed at the television this morning at 4 o'clock in total bewilderment. The defense attorney for this Moroccan Muslim would-be assassin of many, many people, he said, well, no, he wasn't there for a mass serial killing. No, he was just there to rob the train. He was just there to rob the train? Oh, my goodness. Our boys, our 3 soldiers, saved a mass killing. And they beat the living tar out of this guy, deservedly so, because he tried to reach for box cutters. He had all kinds of weapons, knives and everything else. And he tried to reach for a box cutter, and he got it, and he slashed one of the boys, did some severe damage to his thumb and also to his eye. And the other 2, they absolutely helped save some of the other people. One man that was injured and shot had serious blood loss, and they managed to stem the flow of blood and save his life. Our American soldiers are receiving the highest award that France can give out this morning, the Legion Medal of Honor, and deservedly so. But ask yourself that question. The question is, if you see something like this that is going to happen, it is going to go down, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You know, these guys just sprung right into action. I mean, they saw the guns. They didn't have to stop and think, well, what is this guy? Some kind of a collector? No. They went after him, knocked him down, and absolutely put him out. And I just wonder, with the lack of security they were talking about this morning on our rail systems, heavy security for our airwaves, but virtually nothing for our trains across the United States. Our subway system is very, very lax around the eastern metropolitan cities. What about this? I mean, this could happen here in the United States. It can happen anywhere. But right now, what would you do? Would you spring into action or dive for cover? And the conductors on the train, they ran. They ran and hid. But not our American soldiers. They took it to this guy and took him out. God bless America. Give me a call. Come on, 436. I tell you what, when our boys do something like this, we all should be calling in and saying, congratulations. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't forget Denny's Restaurant. My goodness, did we have a good lunch bunch over there last week. That was fun. We had a lot of gift certificates to give away, and we just had a good time. Great meal, nice people. Nice people were there at Lunch Bunch, and we appreciate it. You can stop in anytime, all the time at 611 Overland and Burley. Thomas and Terry and the whole crew, breakfast, lunch, or dinner. I love breakfast. And you're going to just have a great time. And the service is fantastic at Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland and Burley, and also their new location at 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. Caller, good morning to you. How are you?
Good, Seb. If we were to allow our Army to do what they know to do and let the generals run the show, instead of letting some peewee decide what we're going to do, then things could change quickly. So we're doing, with ISIS, we're doing 7 airstrikes today. 7. Now, when we first went into Iraq in 90, 91, whatever it was, we were doing 1,100 airstrikes a day.
Yeah.
Now, there's the will. It's like you could barely get out of bed, let alone get anything done.
Well, Randy, on these airstrikes, Randy, just a minute, I want to talk to you about these airstrikes. These airstrikes are very, very foolish and not well thought out. And I'll tell you why. Most of the generals and people that I've talked to back east in Washington are really questioning the Obama administration and their bombing of certain targets. And many times, there are no people that are members of the bad guys even close to the real estate where they're bombing. And some of the planes that are going up are absolutely put in harm's way because they don't have any bombs, they're not having any protection. This is absolute lunacy, the way we're doing this. It's kind of like close your eyes, put on a pair of blindfolds, push the pin in the map, and let's go bomb that place. And it's ridiculous what we're doing.
Well, we have no will to win. We're just doing it to kind of appease whoever he thinks he is appeasing, the people here that think we should be doing something. See, when you drag this thing out every day, in these conflicts, we lose good men and women of America, or whoever they are. And there is no excuse for it.
Well, I am absolutely adamant that if we can make it the next 515 days, I've got it right down to the second, the absolute must for this country is not to put another Democrat in there. That would be absolute insanity. It's absolute insanity to think someone that is as fraudulent, as much of a liar, a cheat, a fraud, a charlatan as Hillary Clinton is still even in the race. This is insane.
Well, it's like was said once, Mitt Romney said it, 47% of the people are going to do whatever they do. It doesn't matter what that other side does. You know, the ends justify the means. But when 50% of the Christian community doesn't show up to vote, then we're going to lose it anyway, I'm afraid.
I tell you something that really bothers me is looking at Hillary. I mean, my goodness, doesn't that just give you a roadmap for absolute failure to think that someone that is as much as a corrupt person as Hillary still, percentage points wise, can be in the lead for her party and still can, they say in the polling, be ahead of any of the Republicans? What is the matter with America that they would even think of putting somebody as low classed or no class as Hillary in the presidential office?
It's what it literally, we're fundamentally changed, and that's exactly what Obama said he was going to do. And literally the core of America is rotting, I guess you might say. And if you know, again, if we don't rise up and do something, we will lose this country in a way.
I agree with you.
Never get back.
I agree with you, Randy. Thank you so much for your call. I appreciate it. Thank you. Hey, coming up September the 2nd through the 7th, the great big 99th annual Twin Falls County Fair and Magic Valley Stampede. Oh, you do not want to miss a minute of it. They are going to have a ripping good time. They're going to have the All-Star Monster Trucks there on Wednesday, September 2nd at 7 p.m. Ooh, those big old monster trucks are flying through the air, along with the Magic Valley Stampede Rodeo, and that starts September 3, 4, and 5. Don't miss a minute of it, because it's going to be a ripping good show and rodeo at the Twin Falls County Fair, 99th Annual, and the Magic Valley Stampede. Country flair at the fair, the Twin Falls County Fair and Rodeo. Also, I want to say thank you very much to Zach and the rest of the crew at Minnecasia Sales. My goodness sakes. You know, they've got everything over there. I mean, all your windows with the Western windows, and they've got all your lumber, and they've got all your carpet, and the list goes on and on. I don't know how Zach takes care of all the inventory. Holy smokes. And they got all the Tartar Farm and Ranch gates and panels. Holy smokes at Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport. You stop in and see them today, and on Tuesdays, they sponsor Thank You, Dr. History. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Caller, real quick, I got a hard break at the bottom of the hour. Go ahead fast.
This is going to be really fast because we have got to go to the cemetery, have a really good talk with our people and say, quit voting for the Democrats.
Amen.
Have a good day.
You too, Helen. Are you feeling okay this morning?
Oh, I feel okay. I just don't look good.
Well, now, I got to tell everybody, my dear friend Helen took a horrendous fall, and along with Dal, I wish them God's blessings and a fast recovery, because I have seen I said this to her the other day, I've seen all the Rocky movies, and he never looked as bad as what happened to you. I hope you heal up soon.
It was a good-sized board that I hit, so have a good day.
Oh, God bless you, Helen. Thank you so much. I felt so sorry for her at lunch bunch the other day, her and Dal. They both took a little spill, and poor Helen, she broke a bone in her wrist, and my goodness, she had some severe bruising, and we just absolutely give her God's blessings and hope she's okay. Thank you very much. Hey, don't forget Mount Harrison Audiology. You didn't hear that? I said, don't forget Mount Harrison Audiology. Still didn't hear it? You better call 312-0957 for a hearing screening. I did. I went over. I'll tell you what. Did you know that the health of the inner ear is affected by your cardiovascular and kidney health? I did not know that. The inner ear is very sensitive to changes in your blood supply. Well, if you're having trouble hearing, what did he say, Martha? You better give her a call today at 312-0957, and she has a hearing wellness program. She really knows. And that is the lovely Christine Pickup, Doctor of Audiology at Mount Harrison Audiology, right across the street from the Minidoka Hospital Emergency Room, Mount Harrison Audiology. You know what? I think we will get, and this is going to be an easy question today, I'm going to give away a half dozen of the most delicious cinnamon rolls in the world, in the universe. Why, the Martians come here, land, and say, we want to have your cinnamon rolls. Anyway, Sophie's Chatterbox at 530 East Street in Rupert. Oh, these are delicious cinnamon rolls. They're huge and delicious and really nice and soft and gooey. I love them. Anyway, here's the question for today, and it's only for first-time winners. And this is a fairly easy question. In what state was Donald Trump born? In what state was Donald Trump born? First person to call 436-2244 or 1-866-927-4587 with the correct answer will get the half dozen cinnamon rolls. Oh, and if you don't call in the next minute, I'm going to take them. I'm going to keep them. Deanne and I are going to go eat them. Yeah. Hurry, give me a call. In what state was Donald Trump born? Give me a call quickly at 436-2244. I'm surprised we haven't had a caller yet with the right answer. Hurry, give me a jingle, 436-2244. And you know something else about Donald Trump while you're trying to figure that out? His sister, I did not know this. His sister, I think he had 4 or 5 brothers and sisters. One of his sisters was a United States Circuit judge. I did not know that. Quickly, what state was Donald Trump born in? Give me a call at 436-2244 with the correct answer. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, New York.
Who is this?
I'm sorry?
Who is this?
Charlotte.
What's your last name, Charlotte?
Reedy.
Reedy?
Yes.
Well, how come it took so long? That wasn't really that tough a question, was it?
No.
Okay. Hey, God bless you. All you have to do is call Sophie's, let them know when you want the cinnamon rolls. They'll be ready for you, okay?
Okay, thank you.
God bless you. Thank you much. Charlotte Reedy, thank you. Yes, it's obvious. He was born in New York. Yes, he was. And those cinnamon rolls from Sophie's Chatterbox, 530 East Street on the Square in Rupert. Charlotte Reedy is the winner. There you go. All right, give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I was absolutely shocked last week, and I listened to it in its entirety. Donald Trump in Alabama. Donald Trump, and they had to move the venue as to where he was going to speak. I believe they moved it like 3 times before they finally settled on a great big stadium. He had, and the estimates are a little bit questioning as far as he had at least 30,000 people there, and possibly closer to 40,000. And the rest of the GOP entourage that want to become the nominee for president, they are smoking mad. They're not getting the airtime. They're not getting the publicity. They're not getting anything that Trump is getting, and the reason is he's so flamboyant, and he's absolutely, whether you like him or you hate him, or the news media is trying to blame him for everything that's going on in the world as far as what's wrong. You know what? They even started blaming Trump for the stock market reduction. Yeah, the crash last week that's affecting all of us. They blame Trump for it. I mean, I was absolutely, Donald Trump, because of his manipulation and this, that, and the other thing. But they failed to realize it actually was China that caused all of this mayhem and wreaking havoc on our stock market because they devalued their currency and left a lot of people hanging on the clothesline. And Trump is absolutely, like I said, whether you like him or hate him, he's saying the things that people want to hear. Let me ask this question, and I want you to respond. Have you listened to Donald Trump? Do you like what he's saying? Or, and I'll be fair, you call me and say, no, I don't like this. No, I don't like him. For what reason? Give me a call and let me know. I like what he's saying about immigration. I do. I like what he's saying about having the changing of the 14th Amendment. Not necessarily with the constitutional meeting and congregation of everybody, but there are legal loopholes here, and I did some questioning over the weekend. Yes, it can be changed and should be changed. What are your thoughts? Anchor babies are what they are. They anchor the family here to the United States. And don't anybody be so naive as to think that it hasn't happened on hundreds and thousands of times to where illegal aliens are coming here strictly for the birthing of their child, thus the name Anchor Baby, to anchor the family here forever in the United States of America. And for the PC left to condemn and say that is a sick terminology and that you shouldn't use it anymore, no, on this program we will use it as it was intended. Anchor babies for illegal aliens. That is the way it's going to stay. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
I'm right there beside you, Zeb.
Well, you know, we have got to, and I mean this seriously, Doug, whether it's you at your office or whether it's me on the radio or whether it's a banker or a lawyer. Oh, yeah, that's going to work good with a lawyer. But anyhow, we've all got to trash this PC. It's being the ruination of our free speech, of our activities, and everything else. Political correctness is absolutely going to take this country down.
It is. The political correctness and the hyphen.
Oh, absolutely.
America and the Mexican-American.
Absolutely.
That is going to take this country down. Either you're African or you're American. And, you know, people that migrate here, I have no problem with them remembering their heritage. I mean, that's the way it should be.
Well, wait a minute, Doug. Yeah, Doug, if they want to have, Doug, just a minute. What you just said is very important. It should be elaborated on. If they want to have a little block party and celebrate their past country and some of the things that they did in the old country and everything, but wait a minute, they live here now. And many of them are receiving remuneration and rewards that this country gives out in the form of welfare payments and or whatever to help that family be successful in this country. So I want allegiance, that's where the pledge comes in, to this United States, and I really don't give a rip about their past country.
Well, I'm right with you there, but what I'm saying on their heritage is where you come from. But you come to this country for a better life.
Yep.
You come to this country to escape the conditions it was in your country.
Absolutely.
We bring those conditions with you.
Yeah,
and behind, accept our the life here that we live, and move on.
Absolutely. You know, Doug, what you said makes so much sense, and people on the left, they think, oh, well, let them do this over here. Oh, well, let them do that over there. And all it is taking away from the melting pot theory that this country was absolutely proud of for years. Come here, assimilate, a melting pot, but we still pledge allegiance to our flag and pledge allegiance to this great country.
That's exactly right. And I love what Donald Trump did. I mean, love him or hate him, I really am thankful for him for what he's done to the political system.
Yeah, I agree.
He's opened up the can of worms. He's opened it up, and it's being said like it should be said.
Well,
and when he set that reporter straight, that was funny.
Oh, I loved every minute of it. I loved every minute of it. He's going to continue to say anchor babies, and so will we on this program, I guarantee you.
Yep. Have a great day, Zach.
God bless you, my friend. Thank you. Caller number 2, you're on the air. Go for it. Thanks.
Good morning, Zach.
Yes, sir.
You know, talking about anchor babies, let's talk about how long they have to be here. I think they should have to, the parents should have had to live here at least 5 years, have a viable Social Security card, and maybe even paid taxes.
Okay. All right. I am against, and for these politicians on the left, Keith, you heard it probably all weekend on the news when you were listening, whether it's some senator from Illinois like Dick Durbin or whatever, condemning us that believe that it needs to be changed. I absolutely don't want families coming here and birthing their child in this country when they're illegal aliens. They came to this country illegally. They entered illegally, and all they're doing is just saying, gotcha. When their child is born in this country, and they're anchor babies, and they get automatic citizenship, and then they turn around and they go, you can't get rid of us now. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of these, and it's not right because it's not helping us, the citizens of this United States of America.
Well, I don't know how much it costs to have a baby born now because I haven't been through that for quite a few years. But I do know it would cost in the thousands to have them born in the hospital and have the care they needed until they could leave the hospital. And these people don't pay one dime. They get the citizenship and they get the free doctoring, and then they can go back to Mexico if they want to. And for the rest of their life, they can come back and forth from America to Mexico.
Yeah, we can't, according to Mexico, we can't go down there anymore without all the passports and all the credentials because Mexico, talk about hypocrisy, like I said earlier, they want to know who's in their country. Well, gee golly, so do we.
I think we should have the same rights they got, but you know how exciting it is when you had your first baby. Deanne was, really, really excited, and so was everybody else in your family, your parents and everything. It was a great, great occasion.
Absolutely.
And, these people here said, got to go to America because I got to get this baby born in America.
Yeah, it's an anchor baby. It's an anchor baby. Keith, I got to run and do a commercial break. Thank you so much. God bless you for your call.
One other thing.
Yeah, quickly.
When Donald Trump said, if you don't want to call it an anchor baby, what do you want to call it? And nobody's come up with anything yet.
No, and it's going to stay anchor baby on this program. I couldn't care less if the left's feelings are hurt. Wah, wah, wah. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Keith.
Bye.
Josh Mays, J&W Horseshoeing, says, hey, for the rest of this month, which is like basically this next week, you better give him a call because $20 trimming for your horses. $20 trimming? Well, you'd better call him today, 432-2260 or 410-1837. Yeah, both from draft horses all the way to ponies. I'll tell you what, he can get the job done, corrective shoeing too. Josh Mays, J&W Horseshoeing, 432-2260 or 410-1837. $20 trim until the end of August. You better believe it. Oh, by the way, too, don't forget our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Number to call, 678-1191. Why should you call them? Well, they can help you get back to being you with all the exercises and the sports medicine programs and the hydrotherapy pool. Nick Greenwell, physical therapist, and all the physical therapists there are excellent. I know because that's where I go. They are excellent. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Call today, 678-1191. Absolutely the best. All right, calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Donald Trump in Alabama loved his message, loved his poignant remarks about immigration and about the problems that we have in the world today and what he would do in the regards of being president and sitting in the Oval Office. And we're going to be talking about this a little bit more next hour with Doug Johnson from Colorado, and we're going to get his insight on this. And then also we're going to combine that with Hillary Clinton. I mean, this gets deeper and deeper for Hillary. Deeper and deeper. And this morning, the report is out that Joe Biden is warming up in the bullpen He hasn't had the call from the manager yet to step out of the bullpen and go onto the field and pitch, but they say he is warming up and may be ready to throw his hat in the ring. We will see. I'd like to have some calls. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Time for the weather, and it's brought to you by Mad River Laser. Caller, please, bear with me. Don't go away. I would really wish that I could go over there. I've got to get some more business cards. I've got to get some caps for Zeb at the Ranch. I've got to get some T-shirts and jackets. My goodness, they can do it all. Customized with your name or business logo. They are the best. Don't forget, they've got all the sweatshirts over there. Carhartt, Bernie, Nike, Gildan, Hanes. You bet. Oh, they do a wonderful job at Mad River Laser, 502 East Street in Rupert. And right now, here is the weather.
Here's your weather forecast as we kick off the final work week in the month of August. And it looks like we're going to be in a high-pressure stretch. But that's not going to help with the air quality advisory that is still in effect. Mostly sunny skies for today, slightly breezy. Winds out of the west right around 7 miles an hour. Expect a high of 92 for today. Tonight, low of 60. Tomorrow, mostly sunny skies, still slightly breezy. High of 90 with an overnight low of 61. Wednesday, dropping down to about 88. Still mostly sunny skies. And then as we head on into the weekend, mostly sunny skies. Winds are going to be picking up just a little bit, and highs are going to be in the mid-80s. That's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Very well done, Gina. Thank you very much. Brought to you this hour by Mad River Laser, 502 East Street in Rupert. Caller, thank you. I'm sorry to keep you waiting.
Not a problem. Hey, I have two thoughts. One of them is, I thought of a word that's politically incorrect, and that's person. Because it infers male gender, but that's not the reason I called.
Stop, just a minute, ma'am, just a minute. That was great. But when you start tearing apart the English language, and you mentioned it, and you said it very well, but isn't it absolutely insane what the left is trying to do to say, well, you can't say this, you can't do that, you know what, I'm blatantly going to do it anyway because I'm not going to fall into their trap.
Exactly. But anyway, I don't know if I've heard anybody discuss this yet. At one point in time, Hillary was saying, well, my assistants must have taken the confidential or the secret or whatever off of those emails before they sent them to me. What on earth is Hillary's assistants or aides or whatever doing looking at her confidential and top secret emails before she is?
Now, you know, and your point is so well taken, because there was another investigative reporter that mentioned this last week on Friday. His name will come to me in just a moment, but he said, wait a minute, what kind of a sick excuse is that from Hillary saying something that was so classified and so top secret and for her eyes only that some other lesser than would have any access to that whatsoever? Your point is excellent, and I'm wondering, what is your opinion? Will she go down in flames, or will the Clinton power overachieve and beat the FBI and Homeland Security and everybody else on this issue, and she'll come out of this untainted and still make a bid for the presidency?
I'm afraid you're right, but she needs to go down in blazing flames.
You don't like her very much, do you?
I heard that in order to have a position like she had, you are supposed to sign a paper and have a 3-minute video education on, if in doubt, it's classified.
Amen. You better call more often. You do a wonderful job. Now, you are now my new official ambassador against political correctness. Anytime you see a word or anything that they're going to slam us on, let me know.
Well, I've been working in North Dakota, and so I was only able to hear your show occasionally, and so that's why I haven't called in.
Well, God bless you, and it's good to have you back. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, take care. Very nice lady right there, and knowledgeable, too. Hey, don't forget Barry Equipment and Rental. Oh, last week we talked to old Nick right over here at the Highway 30 location. They've got all the Bobcats. And all the Doosan loaders. Holy smokes, when you go by their locations, I mean, just look at that equipment. Great, big, tough, shiny equipment ready to get the job done for you and get it done right. 3 locations, Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, South Lincoln and Jerome, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Holy smokes, I mean, they're open Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 5:30, Saturdays 8 to 5, close on Sunday. They do have all the equipment that you need to get the job done right if you're buying or leasing. Don't wait, don't hesitate, don't go anywhere else. They give you the best deals and the best information at Barry Equipment and Rental in Twin Falls, Jerome, and Burley. Caller, good morning, you're on the air.
How are we doing, Mr. Bell?
Well, I guess just rosy. How are you?
Pretty good. Hey, I want to give you a real quick story, okay?
All right.
We've organized a group here in Burley and Rupert. It's called SICM, Southern Idaho Community Members. We're a patriotic group. We get together 2 times a month, at least once, say the Pledge of Allegiance and all that, and we discuss ideas. One of our members last Tuesday, he shot me an email with some pictures, and last Tuesday night around 2 o'clock, he's an all-night truck driver, local. He sent pictures, and we had a convoy come through our town, and they was parked out behind the Maverick. It was 4 semis. These semis did not have any DOT markings at all, which if you're a truck driver, you know you have to have DOT markings to roll down the highway.
Okay.
Each one of these semis had 2 big 4-wheel drive pickups with it, like they were guarding these semis.
Uh-huh.
They did have U.S. government plates on them, but they weren't a camper shell on them, but they were like a big steel-looking camper shell.
Mm-hmm.
The pictures look like. And looks like one of them was maybe broke down at the Maverick. And they were guarding these semis, and then when he come back through Burley after picking up a load, there was 4 pickups with the semis, and the other 4 pickups had dispersed around the area. One was at the hub, there was 2 at the on and off exits, and there was 1 down by Walmart.
Well, I do know that, and I'm not going to get into this very deeply because I don't want to affirm the fact that I'm an expert on this, because I'm not. And there are other talk show hosts that like to blow a lot of smoke and say they know everything, but I don't. But I do know that a lot of times that various trucks that are for hire for government hauling, whether it's munitions, whether it is top secret or classified material that has to go from point A to point B, they have these convoys, and they have what I'll call outriders, and that may have very well been what this was. And the utmost secrecy and the utmost caution is provided to these drivers and their vehicles. I know a driver that used to do that for a living. I know a lot of the secrecy, which I'm not going to talk about on the air this morning, but I can tell you that very possibly is what this driver saw at that location.
I'll bet you it is. We was wondering if it maybe was nuclear fuel or something, and that was under guard, because if the wrong person shot maybe like a rocket in there or something, you'd have a great big giant dirty bomb on your hand.
Well, I know, like I said, a driver that used to do that and is no longer doing it, and the strain, the stress, the pressure, and everything else of a very secretive type mission really got on him and his family. And what you saw probably is exactly what that was. And I appreciate your call, and best of luck to your group and God's blessings. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I also want to remind you, we had Randy Wynn on the program with us last week, and on behalf of all the 7 Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, they really care. That's a good word to sum up all that they do for you. They care. They really care about your safe driving. They care about your safe driving with the best of tires, whether it's the Eclipse all-season traction, smooth, quiet ride for your cars, or the Open Country HT for your pickups. They care. And they care about your brake service. That's why they have the best in brake service. They care about the front end alignment, shocks and struts, and the batteries. They care about their service. You stop in and see Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. They do care. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Stock market is a mess. I am not a student of the stock market. Do I have stocks? Yes. Do I have other related activities that are tied in with the stock market? Yes. It's a mess. It is going to affect everyone, their 401ks, their stocks, everything else that is associated and affiliated with the stock market, and I don't know what to do. I don't think anybody really is an expert at this time because last week it had some, they're going to say it's a downturn in the market. I'm going to say it was a major crash, thanks to China. And there are a lot of questions this morning as to whether you should just kind of lick your wounds and sell or stay in the market, hoping for a correction in the market and hopefully better, sunnier days. I don't know what to do. I really don't. I can tell you this, that with the stock market going down, there are some pluses. And these pluses, I'm afraid, will try to be offset by the Obama administration because I don't trust them. Gas, they say, will probably start going down in a spiraling down effect that we might see by December, $2 a gallon for gasoline. And they're saying also the same for interest rates. But the Obama administration doesn't want to see that happen. Look out. If they try to correct the market, and if they try to correct gas prices, and if they try to implement higher interest rates, look out. We're going to take a little break for about 6 minutes and then come back with more Zeb at the Ranch. Don't you go away. God bless you on a Monday. Have a good one. Oh, welcome back. Hour number 2 on a Monday. We got to try to get back into the grind again today. Woo, man, my mind was 100 miles away. Good morning, Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, our major sponsor. Thank you very much. Along with some of our great advertisers, including Valley Wide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert, everything for the farm, the home, and the ranch at Valley Wide Home and Ranch. And our friends at Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste.
I'll tell you what, I am very, very high on Western Waste Services. Yes, sirree, Bobby. Not only their garbage collection weekly, locally owned and operated, I'll tell you, but also the dumpsters. I'm going to have to get a dumpster because I have made it, I know this is going to sound crazy, but I've made it a resolution for September, going into the fall, to clean out this office. And it's going to take a dumpster, I'll tell you. Get a hold of them today. They are the best. Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call them today at 734-6969. Western Waste Services, serving you. Oh, my goodness sakes. Also, don't forget, Ted's Diesel and Electric is moving to 635 21st Street in Hayburn. Doug, good old boy. Yep, Doug Martin. He can rebuild your starters, alternators, and generators, and also sells brand new. They're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and moving to 635 21st Street in Hayburn. Ted's Diesel and Electric. While we have just a moment, I also want to say thank you so much for all they do. And they do so much in the community. And that's Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert with our dear friend friend Joel Heward, his family, their staff. Very, very flexible hours to be there when you need them. That's right. And they can travel to rural towns and churches and help you with the arrangements when there's the passing of a loved one. Please always remember they uphold the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. The best, the nicest, and the most helpful. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert with their number 436-5636. Let's go to the phone line right now, and one of my dear, dear friends, again, we've never met in person, but I feel like he's an old shoe, very comfortable. Good morning, Doug Johnson. How are you?
Well, I'm good, Zeb. How are you today?
Not too bad. Boy, I don't even know where to start this morning. I've got so many things that we need to talk about. I think first and foremost, allow me, if you will, Doug, I want to talk a little bit about what happened last week in Alabama. I'm telling you, Donald Trump has got this whole political scene turned upside down and on its ear, and the rest of the GOP, along with the Democrats, they all hate him.
Well, they do, and you see it in how they're reacting. There's a couple of intelligent ones who are not entering into the bashing Trump contest, but most of them are being foolish, and it shows two things. Number one, it shows they do not know how to market themselves, and number two, it really does show their alliance with the GOP establishment. Some of them people will be surprised about, but it really does, and so we're seeing this, and the irony is that if the way you beat somebody is you don't bash them.
Yeah.
You present a better solution than they have. And in this case, they obviously don't have a better solution that the American people will buy. So the only thing they do is they turn into exactly what they are, which is leftists under the guise of Republicans, and they bash Donald Trump. And so it's not really a surprise, but yeah, Donald is shaking things up, and now the GOP is trying to look for a way to get rid of him. They've tried many ways. They really don't have a plan. The latest one is they want to try and maybe infiltrate his campaign apparatus with some people who would get close to him, and then to use one of their consultants' terminology, we would be like Brutus and stab him in the ribs with as Brutus did to Caesar. And so the idea would be to take him down. Obviously, that's not a literal thing they want to do, but they want to destroy his campaign and destroy him. And so I think what they don't realize is they don't realize what they're up against. And a great article was written this weekend at WND.com saying that Donald Trump is basically, and I can't remember, I think they call him a warrior male extraordinaire. And it's kind of what you and I have talked about, Zeb. He is that male image, as I like to say, like the John Wayne character. He comes along, he's this rare person who comes along in our political system who stands up and says, if you hit me, I'm going to hit you back harder. And I'm going to say what I'm going to say, whether you like it or not, because this is the truth, and all we do is speak the truth. And they can't deal with it because they can't deal with truth.
Yeah.
And so I think it's wonderful. I hope it continues.
Well, let's just call it what it is, and I'm not going to mince any words. Donald Trump is very brash. Donald Trump is very arrogant. Donald Trump is very wealthy. Donald Trump is very rough around the edges. But so far, what he also is telling the truth about what ails America, and that's what's really got under the skin of everybody else.
Well, yeah, it's like I said a minute ago, it's truth, and they cannot deal with truth. Now, I will take issue with one thing, not to be disagreeable, but I've been thinking about this, and, everybody, including myself, has said, he's arrogant. And the more I look at him, and the more I watch him, and I've read a number of his books, and I'm familiar with how he works, and he may come across to a lot of people as arrogant, but I'm starting to think maybe he's not arrogant, but he may fall into this category, which is a category that people who've been trained in sales see it. There is a mindset in sales, and he's a sales guy. This is who he is. There is a mindset in sales that nothing is bragging if it's true.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll go along with that correction.
See himself as bragging. He might see himself just stating the truth.
No,
and the irony is what he says is true. So whether he is or not, I don't know.
All right, I tell you what I would do.
I think what's most unsettling to people is that he takes nothing from anybody. And that would be easy to deal with if he didn't speak the truth, but by speaking the truth, they have no comeback.
I would go along and take the word arrogant out of there, not as a correction to me, but as a correction to what many have called him. And I would replace the words very self-assured.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's another one of the attractions, not just the fact that, he stands up and he fights back and, and clearly he loves America. I mean, he's putting everything on the line for America. This is huge. And in his book, Time to Get Tough, that he wrote 4 years ago, he says when you love something, you fight for it with a passion. And I think that's what we're seeing. He's fighting. He is actually angry about where America's at, and he wants to stop it. And I think Americans are really drawn to that because Americans are angry, and they're finally seeing somebody that can stand up and fight back and has not just the intellectual ability and the skill set to do it, but also has the resources to do it.
You mentioned something in your opening remarks that I want to elaborate a little bit on because everybody is blaming him, Donald Trump, for everything else. I mean, they're going to blame him if the dog has pups and there's one less than they expected. I guarantee you that they're now even blaming him for the stock market crash last week. The media, some of the media that are so inept and so ill-informed on MSNBC and also CNN have blamed him instead of the real culprit, China.
Yeah, well, you're right. I mean, he's the scapegoat, and what they're doing is they're throwing everything they can at him, hoping something will stick, and nothing is sticking. And so they'll blame him, and I don't think it'll go too far, because what's interesting is this whole mess with China and their economy does nothing but reinforce Donald Trump's point about how dangerous China is to us and how badly they impact our country. And I have been saying for some time now that if we see a huge market crash in America, which a lot of experts are saying is probably going to happen as soon as next month, and they believe it's going to be worse than what we saw in 2008. If this is true, and I know nothing about the stock market, I've lost far more money in the stock market than I've ever made, but I will say this, that if it's true, a worse hit to our economy, Zeb, I think will drive people one of two directions. It will either drive them into Donald Trump's arms saying, please, you have to save us, or it will drive them away from him saying, and they'll go back to the establishment and say, we're too scared to leave what we're used to, so we'll stay with what we have. And I think it'll be extreme one way or the other. But I personally think they'll be driven to Donald Trump, not away from him.
Well, and here's my fear, and I am not, I said this first hour, and I'm going to stand behind my statement. I am not a professional or anything with the stock market. I don't know. I don't know what to do. Right now, people are saying sell or stay, run or stand there firm. I don't know because it went down so much last week. It's down again this morning. It's going to continue a downfall for a couple of days. I don't know what it's going to take to right the ship. I don't know what's going to happen. But I will say this, that we are also looking at some good things that are connected to the stock market going down, and that will be that there has been an estimation this morning that gas by December will be at or even lower than $2 a gallon, and also that interest rates are estimated to go much, much lower. But here's the caveat, Doug Johnson. There is a major fear because of Obama's administration. They don't want to see gas go down below $2. They don't want to see these low interest rates, and everybody is afraid that with his pen and phone and regulations, Obama's really going to mess this thing up.
Oh, I think that could be very true, and I think the other thing, part of the equation not many people are talking about yet, is we have coming up here just very shortly, in a matter of weeks, we have coming up the issue of the debt ceiling increase. And McConnell has already said we are not going to shut down the government. So they're already guaranteeing Obama will get a debt ceiling increase, which will not be good for the economy either.
All right, now you wrote a piece, and I hope you're dead wrong. I'm saying this as one of your dearest friends. I hope you're dead wrong. When you were talking about Hillary Clinton, prison, presidency, or private life, and you had one statement in there that really drew my ire. You said she's more likely to end up as a president or just return to private life instead of serving any time or being admonished by the rest of American society. For far, far less involvement with highly secretive material, David Petraeus was scorned and thrown into oblivion. And this woman has already been proven to have done far, far more in the obstruction of information that we, the people, should have. And you're telling me she's going to take a hike?
Well, far less. They would have already had a special prosecutor on this and been digging in deeply, and they're not. The Clintons are the Teflon duo. They are never touched. They get away with everything. They may have to pull out of the campaign because I believe this is being orchestrated myself. I believe this is being orchestrated by the Obama administration. But I think that even setting that aside, America has never, and I believe will never, send a president or first lady to jail. We saw Bill Clinton clearly guilty on tape of violating the law, committing perjury, and when they impeached him, even the Republicans voted to keep him in office and not convict him because they circled the wagons. That's what Washington does. I don't think they would ever touch a first lady or a president that way. They may push her out of the limelight, but I do not think they really would prosecute that way. I would really be surprised, and even if they did prosecute, they would boil this down to something very minor and let it go. But I don't think something's going to happen to her. I think frankly, bluntly, I think it's pie in the sky thinking to think something like that would happen to her. My guess is that Obama may win this, and I've never felt she would be the candidate anyway, but I think he may win this. Valerie Jarrett has already given her blessing on Joe Biden to run. And Biden met last week, and I said almost 3 weeks ago that I thought that Biden would probably run and have Elizabeth Warren as a running mate, and I see he has just met with Elizabeth Warren, and I think you may see him run or somebody else, but I think they'll just find an excuse to get her out of the campaign to avoid a real mess. I'd be real surprised if this goes to court in any way, shape, or form.
I equated first hour, and I'll stand behind my equation, that Joe Biden is absolutely the epitome of a story of a baseball pitcher in the bullpen. He's warming up. He's taking his time between pitches. He's making sure that the arm is in good shape, and he's getting a little bit harder and harder and harder with the throws to the catcher, and pretty soon the phone's going to ring in the bullpen, and they're going to say, Joe, are you ready? He's going to nod his head, and he's going to trot on the field. I honestly believe that one more week, I said by September 15th was my prediction a couple of weeks ago. I think in one more week of more of the investigation into the emails, more of her not answering questions, and I think old Joe is ready to trot onto the field.
Yeah, I think it's totally controlled by the progressives who control Obama, who control Valerie Jarrett, the George Soroses and stuff behind the scenes who are pulling the strings. When they say, Joe, it's time to throw your hat in, he will. And I think it will go from there. But I think that, as I mentioned in my current blog post, that this meeting that we saw recently when they were both on vacation in Martha's Vineyard of supposedly Bill Clinton and Barack Obama running into each other on the golf course, which is the biggest bunch of nonsense in the world, that I think it was a chance for Bill to talk to Barry and say, look, this can't go this way. And I think there were probably a lot of harsh words. It kept a long distance from any press microphones, and they just look like they're playing a game of golf, but they're talking about this, trying to figure out what's going to happen. And I think we have maybe the biggest power struggle in the Democrat Party in history.
You said something. I want you to back up a little bit, and I agree with you. I'm not trying to be antagonistic against what you said, but the absolute ridiculousness of thinking that they just happened to meet at a golf course with all the presidential power and security and everything else. How dumb and gullible is the American public to just believe that story?
Well, they elected Barack Obama twice, so I think they're pretty dumb and gullible.
Okay.
And that, we have to remember, and I know I say it periodically when I'm on your show, but the people who listen to shows like yours, hopefully that read stuff like my stuff, are not the ones who we're talking about. They're not the dumb and gullible ones. They're the ones who want to stay on top of it. But we are in a tiny minority in this country. Now, we are a tiny minority, and I'm talking about the people who really want to think. The heart of most Americans is conservative, whether they realize it or not, their values, their beliefs, what they hold dear to. But they fall for what the media tells them. And so I think when they see it, they just go, oh, isn't that interesting? They both happen to be playing golf the same day, the same place.
Yeah.
You know that the Secret Service knows every move these people make. They have to plan it in advance. And they wouldn't even be on, in the same town without knowing where each other is going to be at every moment. So yeah, this clearly was planned. It was, this happenstance meeting that is hard for me to believe that people think is a coincidence, but for some reason, the media and the general public buy off on it.
Doug, one other subject I want to ask you about this morning, and I just had this sent to me by a friend of mine that works with the Daily Caller, and it's about Theodore Johnson. Then he has come out. He's a former White House fellow and current PhD candidate in law and policy at Northeastern University. This is really scary. He said instead of reparations and remunerations to the black community, we should just make the black votes count more than white votes. What do you think about this idiocy?
I don't remember when, sometime in the last couple of years, I heard somebody suggest this concept. I had not heard it was coming back up now.
Yeah.
But it doesn't surprise me. Everything's about fairness in their world, and that's the picture they'll try to paint. The only thing we can hope, really, is that, and I think there's a fair chance of this happening, is that the Donald Trump campaign, which is blowing a huge broadside hole into political correctness in America, is going to raise up enough ire in the American people, and it's already doing a pretty good job of it, that people are going to say, enough of this is ridiculous, and draw a line on it. My personal argument on this whole thing of reparations has always been, it wasn't you, you're not there, give me a break, go away. And I get, I've gotten into some pretty heated arguments with some people over this topic, Zeb, and I always tell people, my family came here in 1625. They came to this continent. And my great-great-great-great-great aunt was hanged in the Salem witch trials. It took 200 years for the government to apologize to our family, and not that it was really a big deal. But we could just as well say, well, look what you did to one of our family members. We want remuneration.
Yeah.
It's stupid. It didn't happen to me, and I guess I'm not even one for people getting huge settlements in situations that even happen to themselves, unless it's something really, really terrible and tragic. But people are always looking for a handout, and that's all this boils down to. And I don't think the American people, number one, would put up with it, and number two, I would hope that people like Donald Trump and some of the other candidates would stand up and say, hold it. We can't afford this. We're going in debt. For every dollar we spend, 40 cents of it is debt. We can't take on more, especially for something that's ridiculous.
I am concerned, though, Doug, and I think you should be and probably are, that if this kind of thought is being promoted by the Washington Post writer, this Theodore R. Johnson, and he says that it's the only way to solve the structural disadvantages faced by blacks in the United States, this is going to be more oil on the fire. This is going to be another log on the fire for the turmoil with the Jesse Jacksons and, of course, the Al Sharptons and others. And I'm very afraid of how they're going to pick this up and run with it.
Well, true. However, I guess I'll say two things. One is it could go, if they do, we could very well be headed to a race war. And if some other things that have happened in recent months in this country had not happened, I was feeling that we were really headed that way. And I'm trying to think maybe we're not. And the reason I'm not is, here we go, backing into the campaign, Donald Trump, because he is reaching all sectors of our society. He's not just reaching conservatives. He's getting a huge following in the black community. And they're saying, yes, we want somebody to help create jobs and make our nation great again. That's what we want. And so I think it could come down to this standoff between, do you want a great country or a handout?
Yeah.
And I believe deep in the hearts of most human beings, people would prefer to earn what they get and would prefer to take care of themselves. And I think that that could be the thing that would be the thing that would slow or stop this discussion.
All right, my friend, I really hate to end this conversation. Great conversation with my dear friend Doug Johnson back in Colorado, and author and editor and writer for the Horse Sense blog. God bless you, my dear friend, and I'll look forward to next Monday. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Abe. I'll look forward to it.
Take care, Doug. Thanks. Great viewpoints right there, and always appreciate having him on the program. Hey, we got to pay some bills real fast. How about the Mayfair Cellar Men's Shop? Oh, they've got everything for you to go back to school in style. Absolutely. And all through this month of August, take 25 to 50% off T-shirts, jeans, shorts, hoodies, wallets, backpacks. Holy cow, and they got brand names, DC, Quicksilver, Lucky Brand. You know, this is a business that's been in business for over 50 years in downtown Burley, and we tell you, you better get over there for the clothing you need for going back to school or enjoying the fall. At the Mayfair Sellers Men's Shop, you better believe it. You stop in and see them today. Also want to say thank you to Let's Ride, Nick and the rest of the crew over there at 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and Hayburn. Yup, where the fun is sold. Man, I tell you, this week in the afternoon, one of these days, I'm just going to say, Goober, time to get on the old machines and get out of Dodge City and head for the hills. Yes, sirree, we got to get up and enjoy it. I'll tell you what, they've got all the ATVs. They've got all the accessories. They've got all the great people working in the service department to help you. I'm telling you, it's all there at Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and Hayburn. It is true. That is where the fun is sold. I believe right now we're on the air with a lovely lady. I look forward to having her on my program every Monday, and that is the lovely Carrie Kupek with the Alliance Defending Freedom. Carrie, good morning. Are you there?
I am here. Good morning, Deb.
You paused for a minute, and all of a sudden I had a real cold sweat come across my brow. I thought, oh, no, she's not there. Oh, Carrie, you know what? I have never taken the time to really ask you before we get into the meat of this morning's program. But really, how did you get started in doing what you do for the Alliance Defending Freedom?
I've always been interested and really had a passion for the issues, the religious liberty, life, marriage that we at Alliance Defending Freedom work on since I've been a child. And actually, I remember I was about 12 years old, so this was sometime during, I guess, the 90s, and we got a mailer sent to our house, and my dad picked it up, and it described this new legal organization that was forming called Alliance Defending Freedom that was being created in order, to keep, to just advocate for these issues and for the ability for people to freely live and operate according to their faith. And I was 12, and my dad said to me, Carrie, I think this is something that you might be interested in doing someday. And then, from then on, and that was, 20 years ago, but I ended up here about a year and a half ago, just through a variety of ways, and I was clerking for a judge before this and did a number of things, but it's been great. I tell everyone that this position is the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Well, you do a wonderful job, and I certainly look forward to having you on this program on Mondays, but I must say that of the stories that we talk about, I always end up in a fit of rage, and this story this morning about atheist groups that are targeting In God We Trust on police cars, I'm absolutely livid, and I'm going to say this up front. I am going to do so much more to promote the In God We Trust motto of the United States. After I read this story, I'm going to be very forthright and very open about doing it even more than we do on the program already. Tell us what's going on with this story.
Sure. So the Freedom from Religion organization sent a complaint to 17 different sheriff offices and police departments across the U.S. stating that the U.S., our national motto, "In God We Trust," is unconstitutional, and they need to take it off their department vehicles. Well, that's ridiculous, and we sent a letter in response to their letter assuring the sheriff's offices and departments that that's not the case, and that Americans should not be forced to abandon their heritage simply to appease the animosity of anti-religious groups such as this one. The Establishment Clause forbids this kind of hostility towards religion, and courts have repeatedly held that this attempt to remove "In God We Trust," whether it's from currency or public buildings, it's just not a go. That it's an acknowledgement of our religious history. It shows patriotism. It expresses confidence in the future. And even just last year, the Second Circuit Federal Court up in New York, they threw out a lawsuit where someone was asking for the motto to be taken off the currency, and they said no, that's just not going to happen. And so we just sent this letter basically expressing as much and saying to not give in to this kind of bullying.
Yeah, but, here's the caveat that needs to be discussed, though. They're not going to let this rest. The Freedom From Religion group and their money and their sick people that are involved in it, they are sitting behind closed doors as we speak, and they're devising insidious little ways to create more turmoil, more tumult in our lives. This isn't going to go away peacefully, I don't think.
And the thing is, it's sort of... It seems silly in a lot of ways, considering what our police departments have to deal with on a daily basis, the incredible stresses and rigors of their job. And obviously, we're at an all-time high right now with respect to the race relations in the police departments, and we're dealing with some very serious stuff. So for the Freedom From Religion to come in and pick this really nonsensical fight, asking them to take off, essentially our national motto off of some of their department vehicles is just, it's ridiculous, and it's distracting from the hard work and service that, these men and women who risk their lives every day to engage in. They really can't be bothered with this, and it's not constitutional. Courts have repeatedly said that our motto is completely fine with respect to the Constitution, and there are a number of good things about it. And so it's just, I don't know that it's going to go anywhere, but yes, to speak to your point, it's frustrating.
But we have to address this. I mean, I really respect your Alliance Defending Freedom and all the lawyers. We have to address this. We can't, in today's day and age, we can't go just, foo-foo, go away. They're going to just all of a sudden dry up like an old prune on the sidewalk. That's the problem today. We have to address it. It takes money. It takes a lot of work to keep addressing these issues because they're not going to go away. They're only going to get worse, in my opinion.
I think you're right, but I also think it's encouraging that court after court after court has rejected this idea that anti-religion should be enshrined within our founding documents, that anti-religious sentiment should be used as a way to obliterate all of our history and our patriotism and our acknowledgement of our religious roots. So we will see if the courts continue to do so, and that's why we sent our letters in response to their letters saying, have you taken a look lately at what the courts have said about this, or have you taken a look at the First Amendment? This just doesn't fly.
Carrie, a couple of weeks ago, you and I were on here talking about the videos that were taken of the doctors representing Planned Parenthood and the baby parts, and I'll be very honest with you, my audience was just absolutely sickened by what Planned Parenthood is trying to do. What about this California decision with the Center for Medical Progress? What's happening as far as the releasing of the videos?
So if you remember, there was a temporary restraining order put into place with the Center for Medical Progress saying that they could not release videos that contained footage of some of the high-ranking STEM Express executives in California that were involved in selling, the lungs and the livers and the heads of these babies. It was just limited to those California officials, so that temporarily stopped those videos and that footage from going out until the hearing that took place last week. Well, the hearing took place and the judge said no, those videos can be released. Truth is truth, no matter how damaging it is. And so that was a great decision and a just one made by this judge. And so what the Center for Medical Progress did in response is that they placed on their website a trailer advertising, or not advertising, just giving a little glimpse as to what these videos that expose these particular executives is going to look like. It's going to come out soon. And they also, they listed some quotes from the video as just sort of a trailer of things to come. And I was just going to read to you a couple of those because they're just, as to be expected, horrific, like everything else. And at one point, one of these STEM Express executives is talking about neural tissue. So they're talking about the brain and the heads, and she's talking about how fragile it is, and talking about it with this undercover buyer. Well, what gets really particularly sick is that when she talks about transporting it to the researchers have a terrible time because they can't bear looking at the faces of these intact bodies, these babies. And at one point, she jokes about, make sure the eyes are closed. She says that, and they're laughing about it. And she says, they'll open the box and say, oh no. And she said that a lot of the researchers can't handle it because it's so, really, she doesn't say it's gruesome, but that is why. And she says the lab techs, quote unquote, freak out, have meltdowns, and oftentimes they go into another field of research altogether because they want to see the limbs, but they don't want to see the hands and the feet to be attached. It's like they don't want to know that it's actually they're looking at a whole baby. So when they see these whole babies, they have, breakdowns. So this is a video that's coming out will have all this, and you'll see that, but these are just sort of the preview quotes as to what's in there. But again, it's just so horrific.
I sit here and I listen to you talk about this, and I've had many, many stories on my program in regards to Planned Parenthood and these doctors, supposed doctors, and I sit back and I question how could anybody, regardless of partisan politics, right or left, Republican or Democrat, how anybody could support the funding of our tax dollars for something so insidious. And I still have not heard a good response from the left. I still haven't heard Hillary Clinton say anything one way or the other. She's been defending Planned Parenthood, but how? How can the left defend this barbarism?
They can't. And any attempt that they've made to do so has just fallen so short. It's so sick. I don't even know that the White House has still viewed these videos. They talk about they've heard about them. I don't know that they've still admitted yet that they've even watched them, which is also ridiculous considering how much American taxpayer dollars are going to Planned Parenthood. And again, there is a very, very simple solution to this. Take the funds that are going to Planned Parenthood and reroute them to the same kind of federally qualified women's health clinics that do not engage in these barbaric practices. And the reality is that Alliance Defending Freedom just created a wonderful resource. It's a national map that shows why the states don't need Planned Parenthood. And the map depicts how few Planned Parenthood clinics actually exist in each state as opposed to these federally qualified health clinics that also perform women's health services without engaging in this barbaric practice, and how the money can be rerouted there. And so I encourage your listeners to take a look. It's on our page at adflegal.org at Planned Parenthood, the whole story. This map is a great resource. The numbers speak for themselves. Planned Parenthood is not needed, and our taxpayer money should not be going to it. Americans should not be forced to be complicit in this gruesome and barbaric practice that Planned Parenthood repeatedly engages and laughs about while doing it.
What are you seeing through the Alliance Defending Freedom? What are you seeing and or hearing as far as the polling, as far as the numbers, as far as the negativity against Planned Parenthood? Is it growing in this country that people are finally opening their eyes and saying, this is insane, this is barbaristic, we've got to stop this kind of procedure? What are you hearing?
Definitely, there is a growing outcry. For instance, this past Saturday, in 49 states, protests were held at Planned Parenthood facilities across the country. So you had over 300 rallies in this nationwide concerted effort where people were peacefully protesting these practices right outside the doors of Planned Parenthood. In 49 states, that's incredible. We've seen 5 states have officially announced they are defunding Planned Parenthood in their states. 13 states have said they are launching an investigation into Planned Parenthood. So these are all very, very good steps, but it needs to keep going. And I think the outrage hopefully will continue to grow as more videos are released. And I really believe that at this point in time in our culture, it is our duty to at least watch one of these videos. I think every American should go to Center for Medical Progress, their website, and take a look at least one of these videos. I don't see how you can look at one of these videos, and not be changed.
Absolutely.
Like you said, it's not a partisan issue. This is a human life issue. This is the beat of who we are as an American society issue. And it's like the Bonhoeffer quote, right? To paraphrase, to look into the face of evil and to not do anything is even worse. Than actually having done it yourself, right? And so I think that every American needs to watch these videos and take action, to protest at their local clinics, to contact their state representatives, to contact their federal representatives, and say, no more. Our money is not going to fund this barbaric organization.
And I guess programs like mine are helping, and I hope we're getting the word out, but yet it still shocks me. It shocks me that when you have a spokesperson like Debbie Wasserman Schultz stand up and say, oh, well, they probably tainted and twisted the video so that they could suit their own purpose and this type of thing. It amazes me that it's turned into a partisan politics type thing. Democrats on the left basically standing behind the funding for Planned Parenthood, and still they're getting the votes, still they're getting the people like Hillary out in front. I'm shocked. I just don't understand how.
Well, it's appalling, and the reason that they are still advocating for this barbaric organization is because they receive a lot of money for their campaigns from Planned Parenthood. It's this relationship. Planned Parenthood donates to the members of the left their campaigns, and in return, these members constantly advocate for them and stick their necks out for them, and make sure that their agenda goes through, regardless of being slammed in the face with absolutely abhorrent images and practices.
Absolutely.
It's a money issue. It all comes down to money, which is why that's what makes it that much thicker.
Absolutely. I tell you what, Carrie Kupek, thank you so much for being on the program this morning with the Alliance Defending Freedom. And to follow this story and many others, give everybody the information at home how they can follow Alliance Defending Freedom.
They can go to adflegal.org, and if they want to take a look at everything that's going on with Planned Parenthood and ways to get involved and what's going on in their state and across the country, they can go to the same page, adflegal.org, and click on the page Planned Parenthood, the whole story.
All right. Carrie, God bless. Have a wonderful week, and I'll look forward to next Monday. Thank you so much.
Sounds good. Thanks, Deb.
All right, take care. Wonderful lady right there, Carrie Kupek with the Alliance Defending Freedom. I got to say this. I absolutely cannot understand. I don't want to understand how the left can sanction and stand behind Planned Parenthood. I have seen 3 of the 5 videos, and I was sickened. As a matter of fact, I know some people might say, oh, come on, toughen up. I couldn't. I could not stand to listen to hear the audio about the baby parts and about the closing of the eyes of the babies. And all it did was bring tears to my eyes. To think that we have turned into a country of barbarism, and that the left and the Democratic Party would sanction and support this type of thing with our tax dollars. It's got to stop. It has got to stop. Time for the weather, and the weather is brought to you by Duck Uglies, 163 West Highway 30 in Burley. You know, I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again many, many times. It is a family place to go and enjoy great food. I mean, great food, and also great entertainment. Man, I'll tell you what, they've got the likes of Tyler Buchanan, and they've got the likes of old Ned Carter. Ned goes back and plays songs that I haven't heard since I was in high school or before, and does a fantastic job. All of this and much, much more. And they serve breakfast, too. They've got the most delicious breakfast burritos. You better stop in today. Check it out. Duck Uglies, 163 West Highway 30 in Burley. And right now, here's the weather.
Here's your weather forecast as we kick off the final work week in the month of August. And it looks like we're going to be in a high-pressure stretch. But that's not going to help with the air quality advisory that is still in effect. Mostly sunny skies for today, slightly breezy. Winds out of the west right around 7 miles an hour. Expect a high of 92 for today. Tonight, low of 60. Tomorrow, mostly sunny skies, still slightly breezy. High of 90 with an overnight low of 61. Wednesday, dropping down to about 88. Still mostly sunny skies. And then as we head on into the weekend, mostly sunny skies. Winds are going to be picking up just a little bit, and highs are going to be in the mid-80s. That's your weather forecast for Zebit the Rain.
Very well done. Thank you very much. And the weather brought to you by Duck Uglies, 163 West Highway 30 in Burley. Excellent food. You're going to have a great time with also great entertainment. All right, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I was not kidding at all, and it was never meant to be in kidding, when I mentioned to Doug Johnson this last hour about black votes should count for more than white votes. That is the thought of Theodore R. Johnson. And I was, boy, believe me, when I read this story that was sent to me by Blake Neff of the Daily Caller back in Washington, I just absolutely couldn't believe it. Here is the general concept, and I want you to be aware of this because this is not going to go away. Theodore Johnson, a writer over at the Washington Post, has a bold new proposal that he believes can heal the American racial divide. And here's what it is. Empowering blacks by making their votes count more than those of whites and other races. Here's what he said. And this is scary, folks. This is really scary. Racial reconciliation, let me start that over again, I bit my tongue. Racial reconciliation is impossible without some kind of broad-based systematic reparations, he says. But if a pecuniary answer can't fix the structural disadvantage, and it can't, what can? He said the answer is simple. Weighted voting, where black votes count for more than white votes. Specifically, this writer, Theodore Johnson, said he suggests giving each black person 5/3 of a vote to reverse the old 3/5 compromise written into the U.S. Constitution. And he justifies his argument by saying it's the only way to solve the structural disadvantages faced by blacks. Now, here's what he says about the changing of the structure of the vote. A 5/3 compromise would imbue African Americans with a larger political voice that could be used to fight the structural discrimination expressed in housing, education, criminal justice, and employment. Underline those words, criminal justice. We'll get back to that in just a moment. And he also says allowing black votes to count for 167% of everyone else's would mean that 30 million African American votes would count as 50 million votes. This is really scary. And you know what? It's gaining traction. And like I said earlier, the likes of Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson and others are going to pick up on this and carry the ball. But we, the American public, we should be making sure that our senators and congressmen are aware of these way out thoughts by Theodore Johnson, that all votes should count the same as it is right now. I don't want to empower any group. I don't want to change the power as it stands in this country. What are your thoughts? Give me a call. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, I guess bluntly I will say this, that everybody has to remember history and remember that it was the black traffickers in human lives as slaves that brought the blacks to America. And you know what? It was probably a God-blessed event for them to offer them and their families and all the generations a much better life here in the United States of America. And yes, I will say, even through the Civil War, the Confederacy, etc., it provided them a much stronger hold as to a country that was growing and prospering, and that being the United States of America. How dare they say that we owe remuneration? How dare they say that they have a right to reparations? How dare they say that they've been held back? When you look at a president that is black, you look at an attorney general holder while in office that was black, and all the other congressmen and senators and all the other administrative members that are of the black race, they have not been held back whatsoever. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
I'm going to play devil's advocate. I think then if the blacks get 3/5 of the vote, then the Native Americans should get 9/10 of the vote, because we stole their country. And I don't believe that every black who's in this country is a descendant of a Civil War, pre-Civil War slaves. So those shouldn't count in the 3/5.
Let me take issue with about the stealing of the country from the American Indian, and I'm not going to go into all the deals about, well, you can't call them American Indians. Yes, I will. I'm not going to be politically correct.
I was just being, you know.
I know you were, but let me make my point.
What it is.
Let me make my point, though. In every society, I don't care if it was Alexander the Great or Attila the Hun, there's always been a sweeping change in the landscape with people trying to settle and regroup property, etc. And that happened also here in America with the movement west. I am not going to sit back and say that they weren't mistreated, because in many cases they were. But we're a nation. I don't want to see a hyphenated nation. I don't want to see.
I don't either. I was just being. If they want to play that card, then you know, it's.
What kind of a nation?
Keep saying Black Lives Matter, but how much have we heard about that family that was shot up there in Montana?
Absolutely.
That, on the Crow Reservation.
Absolutely.
And well, what? Their lives don't matter?
And this is another part of the idiocy that's going on in America, and I'm so glad you called on this, because last weekend I had a call and they said, oh, how can you be insensitive against the Black Lives Matter? And I said, don't you ever tell me and call me on my cell phone that I'm insensitive. I said all lives matter, and I absolutely am not going to single out one ethnicity or one color of race to say that one reigns supreme over the other.
Yeah, I mean, that's and unborn babies' lives matter too.
Amen. God bless your thoughts. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. All lives matter. Babies' lives matter. Oh, dear. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about insurance. You need to protect yourself. You need to protect your family. You need to protect your business. You'd better get a hold of Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, all of this and more, with people that are really accessible and devoted to serving you. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Number to call for an appointment, 436-4424. Here's what's coming up next hour on the program. At 10:06, we're going to be talking to my good friend Kyle Olson back in Michigan in regards to back to school and what's going on with the idiocy and incompetency of the liberal left and Democrats and the Obama administration and Mama Obama's silly and absolutely frivolous and waste of time lunch school program. We're going to be talking about that. Then at 10:32, we're going to have Rick Martin on the air, and Rick has started a group along with some others to fight the refugee center at CSI. We're going to find out more about it and ask a lot of questions. So don't forget, that's all coming up in the next hour. Deanne, by the way, we had a quick note on Russell Smith. Can he have cards and letters sent to this address? Is that right? Can he or can't he? Okay. He is up at the VA up in Pocatello and doing well, you said, right? Doing very well and healing up. So our God's blessings to Russell Smith at the Idaho State Veterans Home in Pocatello. And as soon as we get a confirmation on the address, I'll get that over the air. We're going to take a break, send it back to CBS, let them mess up everything we've put together over the last hour, and we'll be back in about 6 minutes. Oh my, here we go. Ready to romp on. Hour number 3. Yes, sir, Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley. Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 of them, serving you. Along with also some of our great advertisers, and they include Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today. Call them at 734-6969. And Valley-Wide Home and Ranch. 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Everything for the farm, the home, and the ranch at Valley-Wide Home and Ranch. Hey, don't forget my buddy is moving. Yep, Ted's Diesel and Electric with Doug Martin is moving to 635 21st Street in Heyburn, owned by Doug Martin, and he can rebuild the starters, alternators, generators, also sells brand new. Get a hold of him today. Moving Ted's Diesel and Electric to 635 21st Street in Heyburn. Oh, and by the way, before we get our guest on the phone real quick, I want to remind you, always great eating with the luncheon specials at the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. This sounds interesting because I'm not sure I know what it is. A hot brown sandwich served with choice of side, veggies, and super salad at the Chadwick for lunch. A hot brown sandwich. Very interesting. Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. Great food. Super nice people at the Chadwick. I have not had this person on my program for a long, long time, and we're looking forward now to going back east and talking with our dear friend Kyle Olson with EAGnews.org. Kyle, good morning. How you been?
I've been doing well, Zeb. Thanks for having me.
Don't forget that it wasn't because I didn't want you on the air. It's because we've been so busy here, and I'm absolutely interested as to what's going on in the world of education as we start a brand new year, and I'm afraid to ask what the government is going to do or try to impose. So bring us up to speed as to what your thoughts are about Obama's administration.
Sure. Well, I mean, some of the stories we've been covering have been, the stories we've been covering for years. The culture war that's playing out in public schools across the country. A couple of the stories that we have today are there was a situation where a school district was sued because they had a voluntary prayer at a school meeting. And a judge stepped in and said that they could no longer do that. And then, fast forward to recently, actually Friday night, there was a football game, and the band was banned from playing How Great Thou Art. And so we have video on our website of the football crowd spontaneously singing the song. And it's I think it's those moments where people are standing up and they're saying, enough is enough. This is America. These are our values. This is our community. And we are going to do what we want. And we're not going to just sit by and allow these edicts from judges and politicians and everybody else. We're not going to allow them to dictate how we're going to run our lives.
And I'm so appreciative of you bringing up this story because it falls right in lockstep with what I saw last Friday. Former coach of Clemson, Tommy Bowden, was on, the son of great coach from Florida State, Bobby Bowden, and his team had been threatened by the same freedom from religion folks and said, no, the coach can't pray, no, you can't do this, and he said, bring it on. We're going to do it anyway, and there's nobody going to stop us. That's the attitude that I think should prevail in this country. Bring it on. We're going to do it anyway.
That's exactly right. And these stories won't change. These groups won't back down unless that's the attitude of principals and school board members and coaches and parents and all of those sorts of people. Because what these organizations do is they run around the country and they try and find these different instances where, you know, the community is reflecting their values in the public education system, and these out-of-state groups are trying to tell them that they can't do that, and they're trying to shut them down, and they're trying to threaten them with legal action and high court costs and fines and all of those sorts of things. But the reality is there are organizations, Alliance for Defending Freedom, the Liberty Institute, there are many organizations around the country, legal organizations, that will help school districts, that will help parents and families fight these sorts of cases. And so, you know, to me, if there's a community that has these values and they want to protect them, they need to stand up and fight back.
You know, Kyle, what you just said is so true, but the American attitude today is one of being almost wussy. It's one of, oh my goodness, like an old dog. When the minute you yell at the old dog, they're going to run and hide under the porch. We have lost our ability to stand up on our hind legs and fight back. I, for one, think it's time to take their threats and say, what are you going to do about it? Bring it on, and let's see who's tougher and who's going to win. But honestly, in most cases, people run and hide under the porch.
They do, but there are cases. There are many cases where they don't. My family was in Iowa over the weekend. We went to the Ted Cruz religious liberty rally, and he had people there. Probably cases you've talked about, the florists and the bakers and the printers who have been threatened. Their businesses have been shut down. They've been intimidated by judges and by interest groups who want to silence their beliefs, and they want to punish them because they believe in traditional marriage or whatever the case may be. And in all of those stories that they told Friday night, every single one of them, some of them lost, some of them won, but they all were speaking out, and they were all saying, you know, I didn't get into this to be a culture warrior. I am simply running my business based on my beliefs, and I was punished for that. But the critical part of that is that they were standing up, they were speaking out, and they were making sure that people know, or people knew, what is happening, so that when it happens to them, they have the courage to do the same thing.
You know, Kyle, over the weekend, I heard a story about a Colorado high school football team, and you're going to have to, if you know the fine points of the story, you're going to have to help me. I just heard it in passing, but they wanted to honor some of our American fallen soldiers, and they wanted to put a name patch on their jerseys honoring our fallen soldiers, and the superintendent of schools said, no, can't do that, because that might show that they're trying to support the military. What's going on in this country? My goodness, we've lost all the real values of what America stands for.
Well, and we have another story today in that similar vein, where a Tennessee school district has banned students from flying American flags because there were kids who wanted to fly the Confederate flag. And because of all of the, hysteria over that, they have said, no, we're not going to allow any flags to be flown, including the Stars and Stripes. And these are just the stupid, moronic decisions that school administrators make. And I don't know if it's in the name of diversity or if it's supposedly in the name of quote unquote tolerance, or they think that's the right decision. But that is just it's those sorts of moments that I scratch my head and I say, this is the government, truth be told, this is the government education system. You would think the government education system would be perpetuating the values of America, including the flag, including honoring our veterans and our soldiers, all of those values. And instead, what I see is this secular progressive value set that's being pushed on Americans across the country who reject that. And it's bureaucrats, and it's school boards, and it's administrators, and sometimes it's teachers who are pushing all of that sort of stuff down people's throats. And that's why we're seeing these moments where parents are standing up, kids are standing up, some school board members are standing up, and they're saying enough is enough. We're going to expose this. We're going to embarrass the people who are pushing it, with the hopes that they won't do it again.
You know, Kyle, you just touched on something, and I want to ask you about this. I want your personal feelings on this, because you may or may not think less of me after I make my statement. I am a strong advocate of keeping and showing and flying the Confederate flag, and I'll explain why. Number one, it is a part of our nation's history. Number two, it is a major portion of the blood, the tears, and the sweat of what the South really felt at that particular time in our nation's history, and generations since are still supportive of what their families did. You can't culturally cleanse a history and a society by just purging the flags, stopping a television show like the Dukes of Hazzard and everything else, taking down statues of famous generals, etc., of the Confederacy and also the Civil War. But this country is bent on political correctness, and it's running amok. Do you agree with me or not?
Yeah, no question. I'm from Michigan. If I remember correctly, you're originally from Wisconsin.
That's right.
That was not... The Confederate flag was not a part of my upbringing. But that being said, it was a part of a lot of people's upbringing. Right. And they don't see it as hate. They see it as history. They see it as their heritage. Now, and so what we're seeing, and that's why I said hysteria earlier, because there's just this crazy hysteria going on. You know, we see the videos of people. There was a video of someone who ran up to a semi-truck that was moving on the highway to rip the Confederate flag sticker off the back of the truck. I mean, there's just crazy stuff going on, and they're crimes, frankly. I mean, it's vandalism. You know, we're seeing these memorials vandalized across the country. There was the story in Memphis where activists were trying to literally dig up the grave of Nathan Bedford Forrest. I mean, it's crazy the sorts of stuff that's going on, and you're right. It's all coming down to a political correctness, wiping away history, ignoring the history of America, or trying to sanitize the history of America for some crazy political agenda, and so. Yeah, I mean, you know, to me, there are sort of separate discussions here. Should it be flying over the state capitol? You know, I don't think it should be, but that's up to them. That's not up for me sitting in Michigan to decide. That's for people in South Carolina.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But in terms of flying it in front of your house or on your truck or whatever, I mean, who cares? If that's what you want to do, then that's what you should be able to do.
Because it all boils down to the amendment that says we have freedom of expression and freedom of speech. And little by little, whether it's in the school systems with the naming of some of our fallen on jerseys, all the way to that Confederate flag, can't America see we're losing the rights that have been afforded to us by the deaths and misery of past soldiers, of families in this United States? We're losing our freedoms.
Yeah, we're losing them slowly, and that's why I think a lot of people don't see it, or they're not bothered by it, because you know, if it happened quickly, if it happened overnight, a lot more people would be upset. But as it just kind of happens, you know, they're just chipped away at slowly. Fewer people object, but that's. You know, and you see some of these videos, and granted they're anecdotal evidence, but you see these interviews of people in these videos who are, you know, talking about why it's okay to take away certain people's rights simply because you know, they don't agree with them. So, in other words, they should not be allowed to fly the flag because, well, that offends me.
Yeah.
Well, nowhere in the Constitution or in anywhere else does it say you have a right not to be offended.
Absolutely.
But unfortunately, that's the direction that we're heading. And as we've been talking about, that's why it's so important that people stand up and fight back.
I want to get into a segment that you and I have talked about on numerous occasions on this program, and I want to find out how bad it really is getting. We have heard and read various stories that many school districts across the United States are getting rid of Mama Obama's suggested luncheon specials. I have looked at pictures of various trays of food that are being served to these kids at lunch, and I'm wondering how in the world they ever made it till 2 o'clock in the afternoon with a lack of anything good to eat that's wholesome. What's going on with those school lunch menus?
Well, as there are a number of school districts that are continuing to drop the program because they're losing money, kids aren't happy, they're not eating the food, all of those sorts of things. Now, what's coming up, and will be happening very soon, is that the program is expiring or is sunsetting the end of September. And so Congress right now they've been over the last several months, they've been holding hearings on the program itself, and is it working, and asking all of those sorts of questions. But it's going to be incumbent upon Congress to either reauthorize that program as it is, or make some modifications. And so, in my opinion, if there are parents who aren't happy with how the program is impacting their child, then they need to reach out to their congressman and tell them their story, because that's the only, really at this point, unless the school district is going to drop out of the program, the only way to change it right now is to have Congress look at those revisions, and that's what they're doing right now.
Kyle, I talked to a mother of a high school football player back in Illinois, and also her daughter is a cheerleader, and they said that by the time they get done with football practice in the evening and cheerleading practice in the evening and get home and try to have their dinner, they are literally ravenous. They're starved to death, and she told me what they're being served at the school lunch program. I personally, at 67 years of age, I would start to smuggle Snickers, because I'll guarantee you I could not live on that.
Yeah, it's and those sorts of stories, we've been hearing those all over the country. I mean, there's a couple of things that parents can do. One, they can pack a lunch for their child, or the child could pack the lunch and bring it and not participate in the hot lunch program. But you're right. I mean, these stories that we've been seeing, and I'd love to publish the pictures, because you just think, prisoners in the federal prison system or Guantanamo Bay or wherever else, I mean, they get a better lunch than these kids are. These growing kids who, as you say, they treat kids exactly the same regardless of gender or their amount of athletic activity or their metabolism or anything else. I mean, it just is crazy. And this, to me, though, is just a good example of how the impact that bureaucrats sitting in Washington, D.C. have in Idaho and Washington and Michigan and across the country. You can't run schools that way. You can't just have these edicts come down from Washington, D.C. and expect them to work. I mean, we've seen this time and time again. And that's why, it's really important to watch that debate that's going on with reauthorizing the school lunch program, because to me, that's the message that parents have to communicate, that, we're smart enough, we elect school board members, we have competent principals and administrators who can make these sorts of decisions. We don't need bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. to be making them for us.
I ran out of time the last time I had you on the program, and I'm almost out of time today, but I've got to ask you, Common Core. The more I study it, the more I look into it, the more I'm worried about it, as I was with No Child Left Behind. Your thoughts? I've got about 3 minutes left.
Yeah, I mean, Common Core, to me, still remains an issue. It definitely has dropped off the radar in terms of states dropping out or repealing it. I haven't seen many stories about that recently, but I don't think in the long term that it will be viable, that it will be sustainable, because I think the deeper we get into it, the more we'll see that it's not going to improve educational outcomes. It is stripping local control, and it's shifting it to the federal government. We've seen that with Arne Duncan, the education secretary, telling school districts across the country what they can and can't do simply because they took the federal money. None of that, as I just talked about the lunch program, that's having the federal government have more control over local schools is not going to improve the educational outcomes for kids in America.
Kyle, when you look at the GOP and the presidential candidates, the 17 that are running, and then look over on the liberal left with their stand, who stands out in your mind from either side of the aisle that really has the best approach to education?
Well, to me, it kind of depends on the issue. I think Ted Cruz has been very good on wanting to repeal Common Core, and I think understanding the culture of war that's going on in schools. Scott Walker, I've been a fan of Scott Walker since his collective bargaining reforms took place. Was in 2011, and he fought back the recall and those sorts of things. And so Bobby Jindal is another one who has been a very pro-school choice, has been a fighter against Common Core. And so there are a number of candidates, I think, that when it comes to empowering parents, returning local control, repealing Common Core, working to shift power away from the teachers' union and the special interest groups back towards the parents and local communities. There are a number of candidates that I think would do that.
I really enjoy having you on the program, and I'm not going to let you be so long that you're a stranger. We're going to have you back relatively soon. Thank you so much, Kyle Olson with EAGnews.org. God bless you, my friend. Good to have you on the show. Come back soon.
Happy to. Thank you.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. He knows education. He studies it. That's what he does for a living, and I absolutely appreciate him. Kyle Olson back in Michigan with EAGnews.org. Thank you very much. Hey, we got to pay some bills here real quick, and I want to remind you, too, on Thursdays we have a segment called Cassia County School Days fitting for right after that segment. And, of course, it's brought to you by A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley. They've got hundreds and hundreds of new fall arrivals of clothing. Don't forget they've got everything for the babies. They've got everything for the whole family. All the books, too, for the kids. Everything at A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley. And along with the Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland Avenue, life-saving colonoscopies, knee surgeries, carpal tunnel surgeries, anything you need to have as far as surgery is concerned, you be sure and check with them first by calling 677-8888. 677-8888. Ambulatory Surgery Center and A Child's World, bringing you school days in Cassia County. What we're going to do next is send it back over to our main studios for the hard break at the bottom of the hour, and then I'm very, very interested in hearing the remarks from a gentleman that is opposed to the CSI Refugee Center as I am. Mr. Rick Martin is with us in the studio, and we're going to talk about his group and what's being done. So don't go away. We're going to talk about the refugees coming up in about 3 minutes. We'll send it to our main studios and be right back.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Thank you very much, sir, and we're back on the air, and we're going to get right into this hour because I have a gentleman here in my studio that I respect because he stands up for what he believes in or thinks is wrong or right, and that's Rick Martin. Good morning, Rick. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. Thank you for allowing me on your program.
Well, it's a nice pleasure to have have you here. You were here one other time, I think, too.
A couple years ago.
Yeah. Well, Rick, okay, let's get right to it. I absolutely am against what's happening in this area with the refugee program, the bringing in of people that have not been thoroughly vetted, at a time in our history where right now we're having a lot of trouble with porous borders to the south in Mexico. We don't know who's coming across and for what purpose. And quite frankly, the FBI and Homeland Security have given out acknowledgments, of which I have printed material, that said, the vetting process for the refugees is not exactly 100%. It might not even be even close to 50%. We don't know who these people are. And yet the College of Southern Idaho, through their refugee center, is going to be bringing in many, many more. What are your thoughts in a nutshell as to what I've just said?
Well, I agree with you 100%, Zeb. Senator Crapo has been going around the Magic Valley giving a presentation on our horrible national debt of $18.4 trillion, with projections to $27 trillion by 2020. I want everyone to ask themselves, does it make sense for the College of Southern Idaho to take borrowed money and bring in more refugees, for the most part, that don't even want to become Americans? And also, you'd mentioned the FBI reports. In February, a high-level director of the Federal Bureau of Investigations reported to Congress that they don't have the resources or the manpower to vet the Syrian refugees. I was in the Air Force for 14 years. In order to do a background check on someone, they had to go to the neighborhood and ask the neighbors about that person. What kind of character did they have? What kind of ability they had? What kind of things were they involved in? That's impossible. To me, it makes no logical sense for CSI to continue this program. It needs to be suspended or ended.
Rick, let me ask you this. What about the origination of the program? Why was it started? And if the vetting process of knowing and having knowledge of these people and families coming in is not 100% sure, and there have been many problems in the United States with refugees being brought in. I bring to mind the Sarnoff brothers back in Boston. I bring to mind people in Minneapolis, Minnesota that have formed alliances with ISIS and Al-Qaeda, and they were part of the refugee program, just to name a few of the many instances. But yet you and I that are against this program and want to know more about these people, as of Sunday's paper yesterday in the op-ed page, were called doofuses.
That's a scare tactic. That's all I can say, but it's all about money. Myself and other concerned citizens have been going to the college trustee board since May.
Yeah.
In the very first meeting, the chairman of the board, after we spoke, told us, I want you all to know, quote, CSI makes a lot of money off this refugee program, and I don't see it going away soon. But I ask your listeners, do you want to trade your family's safety and security for so-called a lot of money? I say no.
Couldn't a lot more have been done? And I'm just throwing this out to you, Rick, to see what your thoughts are. For a local college, a junior college, to do a lot more for the welfare and the well-being and the education of those that live in the Magic Valley, rather than opening up an opportunity for people coming in here that we don't know and are not thoroughly vetted?
Yes. The Refugee Center had nothing to do with their original charter when the voters voted for the junior college district in 1965. We researched that. In fact, CSI's enrollment has fallen by a projected 10%, and I believe this refugee center is part of it. Parents and students are making a second question, do I want to go to that college? And there are other factors involved in their decline.
Let me ask you this question, and there was one little short sentence in this op-ed yesterday in the paper, and by the way, I wish they'd sign their op-eds. It says the federal government decides where to locate refugees. So, in other words, we have no voice. Our state senators, our national senators and congressmen, they have no voice for us, that if we don't want it, no, the federal government picks CSI in Twin Falls, Idaho. Explain to me how that works.
That statement is not true. President Obama has allowed the United Nations High Command on Refugees, which is headed by a socialist, by the way, to select what refugees come to The College of Southern Idaho does have an ability to select who they get. Every year they fill out what's called a replacement and program and replacement abstract. It's a contract that they fill out, and we've been trying to get that, by the way, and they keep saying it's a trade secret, but they fill that out saying what type of facilities and activities they have for the refugees, and they can select who they get to a limited ability. Also, the CSI board could drop out of this program at a moment's notice. They would just sever the contract. It was started back in the 70s. At the college through a contract.
So basically what you're saying in a kind of a summation on that part of our conversation is that CSI is looking at it as a money-making venture.
Yes, and if you allow me, I would like to just cover some of the profit they're making out of this.
Go ahead.
When we found out this again from the chairman of the board, several years ago, they used local taxpayers' money to purchase an old heating and air conditioning building. Then they turned around and spent $650,000 of local taxpayers' money to remodel the building, and that building houses the refugee center. They charge the refugee center approximately $3,000 a month rent. We don't know where that goes, but it goes somewhere. They have also been purchasing commercial property, including apartment buildings and building houses that they turn around and rent to the refugees, and they give federal tax money to the refugees to pay the rent. Mr. Kleinkopf said they get a 5% administrative fee off the total amount of the refugee program. Right now, we have found that they get a minimum of $500,000 a year to run the program, but there's more.
Let me ask you this, Rick. Are they offering through this refugee program more amenities or certain amenities to them, the refugees, that they're not or have not offered to other students and other families in this area?
Oh, of course. The refugee every week, well, let me back up. The refugee is in the program 3 to 6 months maximum. Every week the refugee gets cash allowance. The refugee has to follow a checklist, go to English classes, and they have different classes, and they have to seek work. They get rent. They immediately help sign them up for food stamps and welfare benefits. They help sign them up for Medicaid. They will be eligible for Social Security. I could go on and on. If I could make a comment to some tree-hugging progressives that listen, because they've been labeling people like myself and you as racists,
bigoted,
and bigots.
Yeah.
But what we have found out, after 6 months, the College of Southern Idaho Refugee Program literally severs their relationship with the refugee, and there are over 100 destitute refugees in Twin Falls predominantly that need help. And if any of the people listening want to sponsor a refugee or help them, they can call me, and I can give my number at the end of the program if you allow me to. There's a church that I can put them in contact that is trying to help the refugees that CSI cuts off, but they're overwhelmed.
Let me ask you this, Rick, and I think you're a fair person and an honest person, and you believe in what you're saying, and you and I are on the same sidewalk with this issue. But when you look at these refugees coming in from Syria or the Middle East in general, and they're from war-torn countries, and we don't know about them because the computer records and everything, when they could say that they're Detective Bernie Shaver and nobody would know the difference. That's it. We're taking their word for it in a lot of this. But when you look at the overall complexion of bringing these people into a Western-style local Twin Falls area, where it's still like it was in the days of the Old West, and we're expecting them and their former culture to fit in and absorb and try to be a melting pot, I don't see how it can work.
It's not going to work, and to be honest with you, the President of the United States does not want it to work. Since he's been in office, over 500,000 refugees have come to our country, and he has a purpose, as like he said, to change America. But it is going to bankrupt our country, our state, and do what I call the balkanizing of America. It's just going to cause super friction in our country.
And this is a question that you have been very informed informed and you've been at all the meetings and everything, but has the College of Southern Idaho and the leadership of CSI, have they been forthright in giving out public information about a taxpayer-supported college? Have they been forthright about saying, here's the information, etc.?
Absolutely not. They have given us old information, but anything current, they have claimed it's, quote, a trade secret. And we are...
Whoa. Trade secret? Like they're going to build a better automobile? Or what are you talking about there? Trade secret?
The only way a college could use the quote of a trade secret is, say, for instance, a tractor company contracted with the ag department to design a new planter. And somebody requested information on that planter they were working with for the tractor company. That would probably be considered a trade secret. But there's no trading going on that I know of through this refugee program. Recently at the last meeting, because we put a lot of pressure on them, they did verbally release some information, like I gave you facts about the refugee center and how they paid for it. Because we have asked members of the state legislature to hold back the over $1 million appropriation they have requested for this coming winter until they come clean with the whole program and address the public on this issue. Right now they're trying to limit free speech.
But have you, at any of the meetings, and I've talked to others that have been there, have you had the right to stand up at the podium and direct questions, whether to President Jeff Fox or anybody else on the board, and get a rebuttal answer, or is it just make statements?
Only make statements. They will not answer any questions at all.
That's ridiculous.
And most Freedom of Information Act requests have been sent back, denied because of a trade secret. We have gotten some old checkbook registers that have enabled us to look at some of the expenditures that they have.
But not to ask questions and just make a statement is, in my opinion, Rick, a frivolous waste of time. If you're going to stand up there and ask questions about the vetting process or ask questions about the location and where they're going to be and what they're going to be afforded as far as amenities and everything, and you're standing up there and basically talking to frowning faces, what good does that meeting do?
It gives us free press, Zeb. At least the Times News has been covering it, and I literally get 2 to 3 calls during the weekday of concerned citizens that want to get involved, that want to help stop this, that want to spread the word. So that's why we keep going to the meetings, and we feel that maybe we'll wear them out. We have seen an opening with Miss Jan Metliler, the trustee.
Jan Metliler? Yeah.
Yes, she has been speaking to us before and after the meetings, and she is starting to see some of our concerns, but none of the other trustees are willing to talk about it.
I've got to do a weather forecast here, but I want to ask you this. We have heard many cases, Arizona, New York, Minneapolis, Minnesota, and many other locations where it has been suggested by the Muslim community in those respective areas that they supersede United States law and have the implementation of Sharia law. This is not a new thing. There is a concern. And Representative Pete Nielsen of Mountain Home had asked and voiced the same thing, but he was mocked in the Times News. So evidently, some of the facts and figures that are going on in other areas, we may supply to the Times News so maybe they can educate themselves.
Well, that would be good, and that is happening in our own community. In our investigation, the mayor of Twin Falls has admitted that he is asking the refugees for input on planning the future of our city, even though they're not citizens, they can't vote, and he is actively recruiting refugees for his police department and admitted that he has 3 Muslim police officers. And if you know anything about Islam and Sharia law, they work step by step, little by little, to take over a community.
I've got to do a weather forecast. We've got a lot of questions, and I'm sure the public has questions for Rick Martin here on the program this morning, talking about the CSI refugee program and the outreaching effects. Give us a call at 436-2244. Don't forget the weather is brought to you this hour by Scarro's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, and simply put, they are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Barbecue special special they've got it. $199 for 50 pounds of great ribeye steaks, ground beef, everything. And by the way, if you'd like to have the meat from some of the great FFA projects, call them. They're going to be working with the Twin Falls County Fair, and ask specifically for some of those animals, and they'll have it all cut and wrapped. Scarro's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Here quickly, and caller, don't go away. Here's the weather forecast.
Here's your weather forecast as we kick off the final work week in the month of August, and it looks like we're going to be in a high-pressure stretch. But that's not going to help with the air quality advisory that is still in effect. Mostly sunny skies for today, slightly breezy. Winds out of the west right around 7 miles an hour. Expect a high of 92 for today. Tonight, low of 60. Tomorrow, mostly sunny skies, still slightly breezy, high of 90 with an overnight low of 61. Wednesday dropping down to about 88, still mostly sunny skies. And then as we head on into the weekend, mostly sunny skies. Winds are going to be picking up just a little bit, and highs are going to be in the mid-80s. That's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Range.
Thanks, Gina. I appreciate it. Brought to you by Scarro's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657. Rick, let's take this phone call real quick. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning. I'd like Rick to comment about a bill to put a halt on the refugee center. I think it's HR 3314. And also make a comment about more immigrants are going to be coming in with these pending secret trade bills that Obama's been negotiating. And our two senators, of course, voted for fast track. I'd like him to comment on these two issues.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it. Rick, real fast, respond to that if you would, please.
Yes, there's a bill, House Bill 3314, that the listeners could call Senator Crapo's office and ask him to co-sponsor in the Senate. It will suspend the refugee program until Congress and communities can get a handle on it. One of the reasons we feel CSI will not release this contract is they're actually going to be bringing in more than 300 Syrians because the president is overloading the country with them, and they're trying to find cities wherever they can go.
Rick, let me ask you real quick, and I want to get into recommendations as to what the public can do. But how did they justify and come up with the locations that they were forcing these people to come into? How did they pick the places like Boise, Twin Falls, etc.? How did they come up with that?
Well, again, with CSI, in my investigation of it, happened in the late 70s with the Vietnamese boat people that were escaping Vietnam after our soldiers left. And CSI was offered the contract, and they took it. And this is what's happened all over the community. In Boise, it's run by nonprofit groups.
Through Boise State University or not?
No. Back in the 70s when Governor Evans was the governor, the state initially ran it, but the legislature got out of the business. They didn't want anything to do with it, so they turned it over to a nonprofit group called Janus in Boise.
Let's take this call quickly. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I haven't heard mentioned, and maybe it has been, that I have a friend that works here in the Twin Falls Hospital, and he's in the lab department, and he says he's seen some of the strangest things in the blood, which, diseases and other stuff that they're bringing into us, and, it's exposing us to it. It's disgusting to me, and it's all about the money. So I just want to make that statement.
I appreciate your call. Thank you, sir. Rick,
could I comment to that?
Yes, please.
Vicki Davis, a researcher in the Magic Valley, went to a stakeholders meeting in Boise last week, and she found out that a large number of the refugees coming in October, if we don't stop this, are medical crisis victims, meaning they may have AIDS, cancer, serious health issues. That's who they're sending here along with the Syrians.
Rick, when you sit at these meetings and you listen to what's going on, are you finding that the percentage of the audience is on our side, that we want a more clear picture as to what's being done and why, or are they siding with CSI?
The majority of the citizens that come to the meetings are opposed to this program. Almost every month the turnout gets bigger and bigger. The turnout this last time was a little lower because the word was out that CSI was not going to allow anybody to speak on this subject anymore, but they temporarily stopped that and send their limiting speech amendment to their bylaws to a committee, so we can still talk on it, but they're talking about just ending the discussion completely.
What are your recommendations? And by the way, what's the name of your group that you have? Let's talk about that quickly.
We have a nonprofit association that's registered with the state of Idaho called the Committee to End the CSI Refugee Center. We're on Facebook, so you can join us. And we have a website magicvalleyrefugeewatch.org.
Okay. And is there a telephone number that you want to give out?
Yes, the telephone number is 208-329-6973 if you want to help or get involved in any way.
And these are a lot of citizens that are business people, farmers and ranchers, etc., that are very concerned about what's happening here locally.
Yes, we have a board of directors, and then we just have citizens that get involved at the grassroots level.
Rick, what would you say to the person that might be tuning in for the first time and maybe wasn't aware that there is a potential problem here in the Magic Valley with these refugees? What are your recommendations about getting the information that's truth and factual?
The best thing you can do is go to our website, magicvalleyrefugeewatch.org, and we have a link on there for the CSI refugee program so you can see what their position is on it, and then numerous in-depth stories about the local refugee center. They can do that. Today, if possible, I am turning in the initial 40 signatures for an initiative petition to have this on the ballot in Twin Falls County in May, so every citizen can vote to end this refugee center, and we hope that's a wake-up call to the college. We're asking people to write a letter to the editor of the Times-News. This helps bring about an informed electorate by these letters, and it puts pressure on the college. And then try to go to the board meeting every third Monday of the month. You can call the number I gave, and we can give you a location.
This is our college. This is a taxpayer-supported college. And for them to be arrogant and, quite frankly, not forthcoming with the information, I find that very offensive.
You're right, it is. The college can be an A-class organization, and it has in the past, but this refugee center has given it a bad rap, in my opinion, and it needs to go away. Boise has more non-profit groups and safety nets for the refugees, so it would be very easy just to keep the 300 there.
You know, Rick, when I look at this situation, and I don't mean to sound like I'm bragging on this, but I've had many of the national people that have been speaking out about the Muslim influence in our country and how it's getting worse with the terrorist activities, etc. And I talk to people like Catherine Herridge with Fox News. I talk to people like Brigitte Gabriel. She's a personal friend of mine with Act Now for America. And I talk to people like Martin Moyer, the author of the book Twilight in America, that absolutely went through and discussed state by state where all the terrorist training camps are here in America. Why are we being so naive? We have a problem here.
We do, and that's a very serious issue, is the safety and security concerns. Look at Dearborn, Michigan. I would encourage anybody to look that up on the internet. That city is all but been taken over by Muslim refugees, and that is what's going to happen to Twin Falls if the citizens don't stand up and do something responsible to stop it.
And there's been a demanding for the Sharia law.
Yes. Well, we just seen recently there was a court ruling that forces employers to allow the Muslim women to wear their headdress. The employers have lost that right to select or tell their employees how to dress.
And it's also gone into high school sports, as far as the garb and what they can wear with the uniform and everything. It's being a takeover of our American values. Instead of being a melting pot, now we're having to be copacetic towards them.
Right. I mean, again, the refugee program needs to be suspended because we don't have the money. But maybe sometime down the road, they could have a program where families actually sponsor a refugee, but we only need to let people in that want to become Americans.
I'm going to come back in just a moment. I want you to give the address and the name and the number again, if you would, please. Rick Martin on the program with us this morning. Don't forget all of your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 with the best tire value promise in the industry. Many of their top tires are on sale right now, like the Open Country HT all-season tire for superior handling. And remember, they have the best brake value promise in the industry with professionally trained technicians and premium quality parts. All 7 locations. Front front end alignments, shocks and struts, batteries, you name it, it's all there for you with Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. Nobody better. The best. Your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers. Rick, real quick, before we leave, give us the name of the group and the contact information, please.
The name is the Committee to End the CSI Refugee Center. We are on Facebook. You could also look us up on the web at magicvalleyrefugeewatch.org. And then also you can give us a call at 329-6973.
And I think to sum up, you and I are on the same page. We're very, very concerned as to the laxity of knowledge on this program.
Yes, we need to inform our neighbors and do something about it, because this is a very, very serious safety and security concerns for our community.
Would you come back in the future?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Rick Martin, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Zeb.
Rick, I'll talk to you in just a minute. We'll be off the air, but thank you very much. Tomorrow on the program, holy smokes, have we got a full slate of interesting guests. Frosty Woldridge from Golden, Colorado, and, of course, Dr. History, and then also Senator Kelly Anthon's going to be here in the studio at 10:30 tomorrow morning. So stay tuned for more of Zeb at the Ranch tomorrow morning, starting at 8:06, going all the way to 11 o'clock. The way things were are the way things ought to be. God bless you. We'll see you tomorrow morning.